Hi, everybody. This is my 14th post in this series on the epidemic of autoimmune diseases, what's causing that epidemic, how these diseases can be prevented, how they can be diagnosed early, and how they can literally be cured. So if you or a loved one of yours has an autoimmune disease, you want to pay attention to this series, because while medical professionals are telling you these diseases can't be cured, that's just not true. They can be cured if you know what you're doing. And that's what this series is all about. Now, today I want to talk to you about mercury toxicity and how this plays a role. Mercury is the most damaging of all the heavy metals. Mercury exposure is especially toxic to mitochondria and has been shown to directly damage numerous organ systems. It's also connected to autoimmune diseases. And according to one review article, the authors say, nevertheless, there's evidence that mercury exposure in humans is linked to markers of inflammation and autoimmunity. And this is supported by experimental animal model studies, which convincingly demonstrate the biological plausibility of mercury as a factor in the pathogenesis, that means the cause of, by the way, of autoimmune disease, end quote. Because mercury is used to harvest gold, gold miners are particularly exposed to mercury. And as a result, they have a much higher chance of getting an autoimmune disease. And one study that looked at children who had been exposed to excessive mercury from eating contaminated fish and found that these kids had excessively high levels of autoantibodies. Yet another study found that women older than 20 who had higher blood levels of mercury, even though they were in the so-called normal range, also had higher levels of antibodies to their thyroid. Another study found that in women aged 16 to 49 years old, the higher the mercury in their blood or hair levels were, the more likely they were to have positive ANA testing. And by the way, if you didn't know it, I've mentioned it before, ANA testing is the best way to use a blood test to screen for autoimmune diseases. A major source of mercury exposure are the silver dental fillings that dentists put in our mouths. Those dental fillings contain mercury. Hard to believe, since mercury is a toxic substance. And when they take the dental fillings out, guess what? They have to go through a whole hazmat protocol to get rid of them. And yet they put them in our mouth. Go figure. In one paper titled "The Beneficial Effect of Amalgam Replacement on Health in Patients with Autoimmunity," the authors state, quote, "Patients with certain autoimmune and allergic diseases such as systemic lupus, multiple sclerosis, autoimmune thyroiditis, or eczema often show an allergy to mercury," end quote. So based upon this fact, researchers looked at the effect of removing these silver mercury containing dental fillings on 35 men and women with autoimmune diseases. All the men and women were positive to mercury MELISA test, which is a test that looks for allergies to different metals, in this case mercury. The test identified people who are sensitive to various metals. All of them had silver amalgam fillings. Then the researchers removed all their silver amalgam fillings and replaced them with materials that did not contain mercury. 6 months later, the researchers reported that the MELISA testing showed a decreased reactivity to mercury in every patient. But here's the important part. Additionally, 71% of the patients showed a significant improvement in their health. 71% significant improvement in their health when they had these fillings removed. 6 patients, that's 17%, showed no improvement at all. And 4 patients, that's 11%, actually got worse when their fillings were removed. The highest rate of improvement was observed in patients with multiple sclerosis. The patients who initially had the most reactivity on the MELISA test responded the best, and the authors concluded that mercury-containing amalgam may be an important risk factor for patients with autoimmune diseases, and that the MELISA testing is a valuable tool for selecting of patients for amalgam replacement, that means removal, and also for monitoring metal allergies. What I want to say is, over my career, I take the silver fillings out of every patient I see with multiple sclerosis, and better than half the time, all the symptoms of their disease completely goes away as soon as that is done. Not all the time, but better than half the time. That's because mercury is a real contributor to autoimmune diseases. Next time, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some other heavy metals.